in 2024? That's the question that we get at the beginning of every year. Is this a year to buy the rental property? Is this the year to buy the asset? Is this the year to buy a home to live in? Primarily, I talk to people buying rental properties, not the home buyers. So I'm going to cover a couple of reasons why people think you should or you shouldn't buy a rental property this year. A lot of people are talking about a possible recession coming. My computer wants to shut off. That's really fun to start your live stream with your computer failing. 4 out of the last 6 recessions, home prices went up. Most of us have a short memory, and we remember the last great recession, 2008, housing crash causing the recession. So we associate recessions with home prices could drop, and you generally don't want to buy an asset that's about to lose value. So if a recession is coming, should you buy or should you not buy? Most recessions, rents go up. In the 2008 housing crash, when a lot of people lost their homes, literally millions of foreclosures, they became renters on a limited supply of rentals, increasing demand. Supply and demand is undefeated. When demand increases and supply doesn't, prices go up. So we could take the recession off the table. It doesn't tell us to buy, it doesn't tell us not to buy. There's actually 2 things that tell us when we should or shouldn't buy a rental. And it's not, is there a recession coming? Are we in a bull market or a bear market? It's actually not prices, interest rates, or rents, the things that we use to calculate our yield. That doesn't tell us if this is a good time or a bad time to buy a rental. I'm in my 50s. That means I have a half a century of experiencing every single year and never once hearing any time at any point in my life where everybody was saying, this is a great time to buy real estate. Yes, between 2005 and 2008, it was a lot easier to get a loan. We were getting adjustable rate mortgages. We had ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets. You didn't have to prove what you were making. You can make any claim you wanted with the lender and they would lend you 105% of the loan. So you'd wrap up the closing costs into the purchase. So it was easier to buy, but that doesn't mean it was a good time. We had the crash. And when it was a good price time to buy, lenders disappeared and it was hard to get a loan. There was a period of time where I had 4 mortgages, and that was the limit to the number of conventional loans you could have in your name was 4. Imagine wanting to grow a portfolio and lenders saying, no, we can't lend you money because you need it. After we started to recover from the housing crash in 2013, a ton of people were saying, home prices have just started to rise above where they were in 2008. This is unsustainable. There must be a crash, so don't buy. They continued to go up. Prices continued to go up for the next decade. In 2015, people were saying, this is the first year that a significant number of baby boomers are going to retire, so there's going to be a silver tsunami, and a flood of inventory is going to crash the market and make prices come down. Make sure you don't buy. They still continued to go up. In 2018, interest rates went above 6%. Actually got a few mortgages above 6%. And this was a point in time when a ton of people were saying, the affordability index says this can't work. Prices, interest rates, and incomes don't line up where the average person can't buy a house. There has to be a crash. Prices continue to go up. In 2020, we had a pandemic, an eviction moratorium, a rent freeze. We had a 30% market crash in March of 2020 for the stock market. A lot of people were saying this has to cause a housing crash. Don't buy. In 2021, people from 2020 had gone on forbearance, a significant number of people. It basically lasted a year. The last time we had forbearance in the 2008 timeframe, when forbearance ended, a lot of people had to come up with all the cash from the missing payments all at once and couldn't, so we had a lot more foreclosures. This time around, the lenders added the extra payments onto the end of the mortgage, often had to offer a 40-year term on the loan if you were coming out of forbearance. So only less than 1% of the people who entered forbearance went into foreclosure. So there isn't this massive flood of inventory because of forbearance. Then in 2021, at the end of 2021, interest rates start to go up. 2022, they over double interest rates. Again, you hear unaffordability. The affordability index says people can't buy. This completely ignores that starting in 2020, we've had remote work as more of an option than at any point in our entire lives. So nobody knows what the median income is in an area right now, because it'll be years if we ever know what somebody was making and where they were actually living. Now we're in 2023 and people are saying there's a recession coming. Do you get the theme here that every single time one of these reasons why a crash was right around the corner and you shouldn't buy real estate, at that moment in time, it felt real. It felt unique. It felt different than everything before, just like it does today. So can we use a predictor of a recession or that a housing crash is going to come as a reason to buy or to not buy? No. That doesn't tell you what to buy. It doesn't tell you when to buy. Before I talk about the two things that tell you when you should buy real estate or when you should not buy real estate, I also want you to consider the chronology of investing. Should you acquire a rental property in 2024? What if you're in year one? You just started thinking of your finances. Maybe you've been changing jobs, don't have consistent income. It's going to be very hard to get lending. The first couple of years, we want to show stable income, consistent income, working in the same field so that lenders give us more options. We want to work on our credit score. So if you're just now starting, today is the first day you found my channel, howdy. Maybe this isn't the year. No, it's January. Maybe that's enough time to learn your market, pick a strategy, learn that strategy, educate yourself, find a great deal. And yeah, you might acquire one this year, but that doesn't mean this is the best year to do it. If you're in year 2 or 3 or 4, like some of the people who've been watching my channel for a few years, I see that REI Stoners, we just had a 2-year anniversary of the time we met, went out for lunch this week. So 2 years later, we flash forward, they've moved to a new state, stabilized their income, showed consistent income in their new fields, acquired a duplex and are house hacking. Is this a year that they should acquire another rental? We'll see when we talk about the two things that tell you if it's time to buy or not. If you are, like me, have reached financial freedom, right? The quickest chronology, I'll break it down in less than 30 seconds. Less than 10 years to go from negative $89,000 in net worth. I had $89,000 in bad debt I didn't know existed till the divorce. As a single parent with 3 kids making $17 an hour. So it's not a good starting position. To flash forward to 2022, I retired with a net worth a little over $3 million, cash flow profit in that year of a little over $204,000. So significantly changed lifestyle and life possibilities in 10 years. Should I acquire a rental this year? I am financially free, retired in 2022. I do not have the goal of the biggest portfolio possible to have bragging rights on the most number of units. My goal was the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units. I don't want to add another property. I might not even want the properties that I have. At some point, it might make sense to, I've never done this, but sell a property, pay off a couple of the mortgages on 1 or 2 of the duplexes, increase the cash flow, reduce the number of tenants that I take care of. Financial freedom was my goal, not bragging rights of portfolio size. So what year are you in the chronology of your investing contributes to whether you should buy a rental in 2024 or not. And here are the two things that tell you, yes, you should buy, or no, you shouldn't buy. And I want you to take a note. The first thing I want you to think of, if somebody is telling you to hurry and buy a rental because it's going to become more and more unaffordable, and the longer you wait, the more money you're going to lose, so you better jump on it, block them. If you're in a hurry, you're going to cut corners and you're going to possibly lower your standards to the point where you get a bad deal. If somebody is telling you there is a crash coming, make sure you wait to buy. Professional term coming, they're retarded, block them. If there's a crash coming, you definitely want to buy because crashes can cause rents to go up. Crashes create buying opportunities where lending is going to be harder to acquire, especially for people who don't own the assets. So don't hurry, don't wait. Here's the two things that tell you when you should buy, whether it's 2024, 2025, your first year of investing, your 5th year of investing, or after you've reached financial freedom. The first thing is, are you ready? Now think this all the way through. Are you ready? A lot of investors will say, do you have the down payment, money for closing costs, immediate repairs, and the reserves that lenders are going to require? Yeah, that's an aspect of it. Second thing, are you ready? Have you educated yourself on the market you're investing in? Have you chosen an asset and studied it to the point where you can recognize a good and a bad deal? And most important of the are you ready question, is there anything going on in your life that takes away your ability to focus on real estate and get a good deal? Birth, death, divorce, job change, all of those things where you might want to focus more on life than investing. Are you ready? Nothing going on in your life. You've studied your market, you know your asset class, you have the cash for down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, and reserves. And if you're using creative strategies like seller financing or other people's money, you still have the money for reserves because things are going to pop up. And if you don't have the ability to save when you don't have assets, you're not magically going to develop the ability to save once you do have the assets. So that's the first thing of whether you should buy in 2024 or not. The second thing is, and this to me is the thing that we can't control. There are two types of goals. I'll probably make a standalone video on this, but a lot of people focus on outcome goals. I want to own a rental in 2024. I want to add 2 rentals to my portfolio in 2024. I want to go on a date within the next decade. These are outcome goals you can't control. What I want you to do is control your output goals. Outcome is results. Output is what you do control. I want to look at deals in real estate for at least 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week for the next 6 months. You can control that. You are in control of what you do. You are not in control of what the results are. So we can control the are you ready? We can't control the second part. So this is what tells you, is now a good time to buy? Are you ready? And did you find a great or good deal? If you're in your financial freedom years, I would only buy the great deals. But in my growth phase, I was completely happy with base hit. You don't get RBIs unless you got people on base. So I was okay with good deals. You might find a good deal tomorrow. Are you ready? Then you pursue it. You might not find a good deal until 2026. And if that's how long it takes you to find a good deal, that's how long it takes you. Don't lower your standards to the point where you might get a bad deal. You might adjust your market. You might look at different asset classes. I did that in the beginning. I wanted single family houses because I understood them, but in my area, still haven't seen one that's cash flowed. So I switched to small multifamily. But I studied for over 6 months those single family houses to make sure I knew for sure that the strategy wasn't working, that I wasn't making mistakes. Should you buy a rental in 2024? The actual answer I could have put at the beginning of the video. If you are ready and you find a great deal, yes. But if I started with that, people wouldn't understand exactly what I meant by are you ready or what a great deal is. Because you need to educate yourself on how to recognize a good deal. Because another mistake a lot of people make is trusting their lender or their agent. And remember, a lender's job is to sell loan products, and an agent's job is to close transactions. Neither one of them want to see you make a bunch of money on your investment. You date your agent, you date your lender, you marry the property. When it comes to investing, take a mental note. We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. You can set a goal of, I want to own more rental properties. I want to close in a deal this year. I want to reach financial freedom. We don't rise to that. But if you create a system of looking at deals every day, studying your market, networking with other investors, one of the quickest ways to learn if you're running the cash flow number calculations correctly or not is to approach an investor in your area at a local REI meetup or somebody that you know who's an investor and ask them, can I run my calculations on your property? And tell them, you don't have to share exact numbers with me, but I'm going to run it. I'm going to figure out what I think my cash flow would be. I'm going to figure out what I think my yield would be, and I'm going to share that with you, and you tell me how close I got. Because another investor will be one of the first people to point out a flaw in the way you're doing it. If you develop that system and you learn how to save, you keep working on your credit score, you talk to lenders to find out what your option is, you study your market, make sure your strategy fits, you choose a strategy that fits in your market. You don't force a strategy into your market. You talk to your agents and get your searches set up, and then you run this system. You will fall to the level of your system. And if your system will get you to financial freedom, you will reach financial freedom. Think of how many people have the goal of being wealthy, but don't put a system in place, and they'll never reach it. I kept the intro to this video down to 15 minutes. I think that's a record for me. My goal is always 10, and I usually do about 30. So if you're new to my channel, thanks for hanging out with me. My name is Dion. I reached financial freedom in about a decade, even though I didn't start from a good position, and my goal is to share with you how to do the same. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a live stream just like this. The intro will eventually be a standalone video that I put out on its own. But the next couple of hours in this video is going to be me answering questions. The reason I like the live streams is it gives you a chance to put questions in the comments during the live, or even after I answer all of the comments, because my YouTube channel is still small enough for me to do that. It's not a good thing, but it's good for you. Because what I want you to see is stream of consciousness, what an investor keeps in their mind. If you ask me a question and I know the answer, it's generally something that you should want to know. If you ask me a question and I say, I've never dealt with that, I've never heard of that, we're probably going to have to ask a CPA or a lawyer. That's not something an investor keeps of top of mind awareness. So it doesn't mean that those questions aren't good. It just means that the idea with a live stream is this is not researched, scripted, edited videos. This is questions and then my opinion from experience of reaching financial freedom through rentals to help you do the same. Howdy, everybody. Bill, Cashflow is freeing, Angel R, Josh, Ninja Vanish, Dividend Dave, Frank, Jason, Bang, Rich, the Yoder. Good to see you all. Howdy from West New York. Brr, it's really cold. The answer is yes, it's a good deal and it makes sense. So it's a good deal and it makes sense. And are you ready? So I talk often, as much as I can, about reaching financial freedom and how amazing it is, because I want people to understand that you're going to run into challenges and it's worth it. Making work optional. You don't have to be as lazy as me and retire and never work again in your life and play World of Warcraft all the time. But actually, I'm playing the Old Republic, not WoW right now. So you will have challenges. You will have tenants who call you and say amazing things like, it's frozen outside, the temperature is 14 degrees, and this tree is starting to fall over. The roots have popped up out of the ground because of the freeze. That's a fun phone call to receive. And I have people who say, I don't want to be a landlord because imagine you get this call. Now, it's whatever time of day. This was obviously during the day when they took the picture, but this could have been 10 o'clock at night. Somebody's saying, oh, what a nightmare that is. So I pull out the Thumbtack app, which is weird to say because my family runs tree services. My dad had a tree service. 2 of my brothers have tree services. I hated tree work so much I joined the Marine Corps because that would be easier work. One of the reasons. So I go on the Thumbtack app and I get 3 quotes. $2,200 to remove this tree, $1,700, and $950. 3 quotes, minimum of 3 quotes. And the idea is, the reason for this is because having been the estimator for our family with tree work, I haven't decided if I want to grind the stump out yet or not. We'll see. Whenever you have a project done, you contact at least three contractors, because you don't just find a contractor who has good prices. The estimator, the person planning the work for that business, looks at their schedule, not just your job. And I have handyman doing something, so I might need to answer this. I'll wait. I'm going to answer the phone because I do have a handyman I'm going to share in a minute doing something right now on one of these emergency calls that comes in. So they look at your job. You know, what's the cost? How many people is it going to take? What are the cost of materials? What's the risk factor to come up with your price? But then they also look at their job and they think, if we have 3 months worth of work booked out and we have to push off a customer to get to your job, your price goes up because, yeah, it's worth that inconvenience for the right amount of money. Versus you find the contractor who currently only has a couple of days lined up and knows that next month's bills are going to come in. You'll get a wide range of prices on every job every time. Then you have a tenant who calls and says, first, let me say they're a genius. They call and they say, I leave the garage door open so that my dog can come in and out. And in the garage is a washer and dryer hookup and a water heater. And they call and they say, I don't think it's supposed to do that. Well, I agree. It's not supposed to do that. There's the question. Do you pay to have this fixed, or do you charge the tenant to have this fixed since they literally left the garage door open for their dog to come in and out when it's 14 degrees outside? But the cool thing is, when you do go to a tenant's house and you find that not only do they have a sense of humor, but you have to wonder who they expected to come over. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry. So it's not always puppies and kittens. There are challenges, but this turns into a couple of phone calls, a couple of texts, a couple of emails, and the tenants pay rent every month. So a lot of people, there's a mistake that a lot of people make. The tree, $950 to take it out. Good reviews from the Thumbtack app, have the right insurance, go to the state website to make sure they're currently insured. Everything is good. So I'm happy with the price. If the reviews were bad enough, yeah, I probably would have went to the $1,750 or tried to negotiate with them or maybe hunt it again. But that was a couple of calls, a couple of texts from Thumbtack. When I collect rents, we set aside a percentage of gross rents. I chose 15%. So if rent is $2,000, $300 a month is being put into an account for that unit, right? So all of the units across the board, I've got a little over $3,000 going into an account being set aside for repairs and maintenance and vacancy. I've heard investors say, oh, my tree was falling over. I had to spend $950 plus the $50 tip. So I spent $1,000 to have a tree taken out. That's terrible. I've lost, if I'm making $200 a month in profit, I've lost 5 months worth of cash flow. And that's not how it works. Expenses do not impact cash flow because of the 15% we're setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. That money pays for the repairs. That's why I was able to tell my tenant politely, you're stupid. If this happens again, yeah, I'm going to have you pay for it if you leave the garage door open. However, in this case, first time, I get it, you're young, this is how we learn, I'm covering this expense. I was okay with that because it's not my money, it's tenants' money. It's been going into this account to pay for these dumb things that tenants do. And who knows? It is entirely possible, since that's not PEX plumbing, that might have frozen even if the door was closed. Now, I do have another unit, a duplex, where one super smart person left the door open and it froze the pipe. And he calls me and he says, the water heater broke. You need a new one. Okay, what's it doing? Because a water heater that's broken is either leaking all over the floor or it's letting water come out that's cold. He said, there's no water coming. That's not a broken water heater. That's a frozen pipe. So I know the tenant. I know he leaves the door open about this much for his cat to come in and out. And I said, was your door open when it was 14 degrees out? Because if you made that mistake, you probably have a frozen pipe. He takes a heat gun, closes the door, problem solved. Some people aren't the brightest, but they are nice. That's been my week in real estate land. Yeah, good times. It's not always puppies and kittens. Although, tree, frozen pipe, a busted pipe, probably totaled 25 minutes of my time. I think. Although I laughed about it quite a bit. That took up time too. Jared, howdy, Wayne. Harold, Oscar, Wealth Building Journey. Good to see y'all. Happy new wealthy year. Yes. I forget what it is, but that's that's how you say Happy New Year in, I think it's Cantonese, but it's not Cantonese. Basically, they say wealthy year, right? Let's just have a prosperous year. Financial firefighter, janitor, booger fart boy, howdy, Valentino, good to see you guys. Angel R, Dion, can you show typical duplex deal numbers for you? Interest rates made my market yield drop from 10% to 8%. They did that pretty much in my market too. Are my calculations off? Properties are selling fast, and I'm worried about missing out. So yes, Angel R, I was able to consistently pretty much out of 100 deals, 80 sucked, would lose money every time. But those 20 that were left, those are the ones I used to calculate what an average yield was. There's a lot of people who just put up wish list pricing, and if they get that number, they take it. So there's some dumb deals out there. But out of those 20, I was able to get 7 or 8% yields fairly consistently in my market. So I shot for 10s. And then in the last couple of years, it dropped to from 2021 to 2023 as rates went up and prices didn't adjust down. Yield went down to, I can find some 3s and 4s, maybe some 5s. So I was getting to the point where let me adjust this to, I'm going to look for 8s because that's what I want to do. I don't want to always get a certain yield because the markets change and different markets are different all the time. But I want to beat the area average. Then what I did, Angel, is I expanded out about another 30 minutes worth of travel. Because with remote work being such an option now, remote workers who don't have to go to the office at all or only have to go to the office once or twice a week instead of 5 days a week are willing to commute a bit further. So they've moved out and rents pushed up in about 11 new markets. I looked at several of them. 2 seem to have the best deals. So I looked at Mason County and Kitsap County in Washington, half of those counties basically. And rents pushed up, but prices hadn't because remote workers don't want to buy. What if their employer calls them back to the office next year? They're willing to go and rent, sign a year lease, but buying not so much. So rents had pushed up and I was able to find this is about a 12% deal if I do a cash out refinance when the BRRRR is done. It's about an 8% deal if I just leave my money in. It's not like a 7.8% yield if I leave my money in it and continue here without doing a refinance. So I'm actually not sure which way I'm going to go. It's the reason I did a BRRRR. I didn't have to use hard money and I don't have to refi at the end. Don't compare year 10 to year 1. That is not a growth strategy. That is a financial freedom, lazy strategy. So hopefully that helps you. When it comes to prices, it would take a whole video and a whiteboard to go over. I paid $298 for duplexes that are now selling for $650. And rents were $1,200-1,300 that are now $1,900. So they're not quite keeping up. That's why I pushed out. The return went down because prices over doubled, interest rates over doubled, rents haven't, which is why I went from the strategy of making offers really quick. Angel, I wanted my offer in, if it hits the MLS, I wanted an offer in within an hour so that before the seller knew they were going to get a ton of offers, waiving contingencies, over asking, offering to name their kids after the seller if they got the deal. I wanted my offer in so that they might accept my offer before they got the other offer in place. Or because they have that sunk cost theory, they've already accepted mine, they're not even going to take a better offer, or get my offer in so that when a better offer comes in, I can say, and this is how I got half my portfolio. Is it half? It was 3 properties. So it was half a while ago. It's a little less than half now. But I said, okay, you saw my offer. I understand you got a better offer. My offer is still good in case that one falls through. And half the time, so 3 of my properties I got because I make an offer, they take another offer. The other offer, they outbid me, thinking they could negotiate it down. But the seller has my offer sitting in the wings. If that buyer that was just trying to get a price accepted to then negotiate as hard as they could fell out, then my price was accepted. In one instance, that happened, and the seller told me that he was doing a 1031 exchange. So I was still able to negotiate another $10,000 off of that price. And I see Josh sends freezing pipes suck super chat. Thank you very much. I will add that $5 to the tip that the guy gets to go. He's actually probably there now. That's why I was my phone rings on a number I don't recognize, even during a live stream, love you all, but that guy's out there working in the cold, I'm going to, that person, I'm going to answer it. 2024, nice. My chat moved. I appreciate it when my chat moves because that means there's questions coming in. This live stream tonight is going on for about 2 hours. At 6 o'clock tonight, there is a course Zoom call. So if you're in the course tonight, 6 o'clock, I don't know if you got the email or not, but that Zoom call is set up for anybody in the course. And there is a new person in the course, so hopefully they can make it tonight. We'd like to, because everyone jumps on Zoom together, like to put a face to the peoples. All-Nighter Hider and Laura, howdy. Northwest Coast, cheers. Luke, Financial Firefighter, got you guys. Brandon, what would you say your average time to respond to any sort of tenant's request is? When I was working full-time, sometimes up to a couple of hours, maybe. And sometimes the response to a tenant's request is, no, that's a stupid thing. I'm not going to do that, right? Whatever it's possible that tenants ask for things. That's just an easy answer to say no. But if it is something like, I got a frozen pipe, it's pull up the Thumbtack app. Generally, so here's why I use Thumbtack for this. When you close on a property, you should have a list. Plumbers with 24-hour a day, 7-day a week emergency service. Electricians with 7-day a week emergency service. Doesn't have to be 24 hours a day. During a really big cold snap, I actually don't want to call a plumber. They're the person everyone is called. I want to go on Thumbtack and search for plumbers, because then what you'll get is I have a couple of handymen that I found that way who have subs that are plumbers. So the plumber from the searchable plumbing company with the emergency service is the most busy right now. So if I couldn't find a response off of Thumbtack, yeah, I'd go do that. But you're also going to have triple the rates. My estimates on this pipe were 409 something, and I didn't even get the third one because I didn't like the way they talked. But a couple hours usually to respond to something. Even that was when I was working full time. Now that I'm retired, it's usually pretty quick. I very rarely talk to tenants. I mean, a tree, a pipe. Trying to think, there was something else I talked to the tenant of this month. That's not been important. What was it? Well, I did the binder strategy 4 times this month too, so I guess that counts. Yeah. REI Stoners, howdy. JMC, howdy. Ariane took my message back to make me lose sleep and wonder forever and ever what was said. Well, feeling dirty, I am not ready. Yeah, right now, too much going on in your life. There's things to focus on. That's why we had that phone call. Curtis, howdy. Hope to see you either at the Robin Hood event on this Saturday or at the next Tacoma FI meetup, which somebody should remind me when it is because I forget. Manuel, howdy. My goal is to be a lazy landlord. I'm building reserves and doing the work. Awesome. That's the thing is, hopefully, Manuel, you get this. Real estate investing is not passive. Real estate ownership can be close to passive, right? The less passive we make our investing, the more likely we are to be successful, to where we can have that less, more passive ownership. Oscar, while I still have my W-2, I'm okay with good deals. Me too. Good old times, howdy. When you buy a property with tenants already in place, can you explain the process of how the rents are transferred to you? Absolutely. So, okay, you've closed on a property. So I've got a couple of videos on, you go under contract, you schedule the inspection, you schedule the appraisal, you ask for a rent rolls, you gather all your information, but now you've closed. Like, you've gone to the closing table, you've given them a check, you get the keys, whatever. You now own the property. You want to Google landlord introduction letter, several versions of that. And it basically just says, hello, I'm introducing myself. I'm the new owner of the property. As you could see, you probably saw the people here for the inspection. You probably saw people here for the appraisal. It was scheduled with you. here is how you get a hold of me. Either your property management company will do this letter, they've got a system for it, or since I self-manage, here's my email, here's my phone number. I prefer text. And then you include in there the day that the sale was closed, and you say, don't worry about the rent that was collected for February. That's been taken care of, because title, let's say I closed on my fourplex on January 6th. So up until January 6th, the previous owner owned it. Now they collected all the rents for January. What the title company does is first they make sure that there's no bills due with utilities, right? You're coming in starting at zero and going forward, it's your problem. So they verify that. Then, you have title insurance to protect you from other things that can go wrong. But the title company goes, okay, there's 31 days in January. As of the 6th, they figure out the interest that's going to the loan. They do all the math on that, but they also look at the collected rents and the collected deposits. So the title company doesn't go to the seller and say, you've collected $8,000 in rents and you have $6,000 in deposits. Give us that money to give to the buyer, right? That's not how it works. What they do is they go, okay, you're getting a loan to buy the property and you're bringing money to closing. We will lower that by the amount of the rent or the deposit, or maybe you bring in that amount and then you get a check from title that comes out of that money that goes to the seller, right? The title company can arrange that either way. So you're going to get the prorated rents for what's left in that month if there's tenants in place. That doesn't come from the tenant. So that current month they've already paid it. Title takes care of that and the deposit. Then before the next month, what you do is you give that landlord introduction letter. You usually go in person to do that, or have your agent bring it in person and print it out and take it. Don't trust snail mail. It can be weeks, right? And it has to pay rent. Here's how you do it going forward. And it can have however you collect rents. I do it as long as it does 3 things. Makes it easy on the tenant. So I offer things like Zelle, Apple Pay, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. I'll take a check and deposit it with the app, whatever way the tenant is happy paying it to start. If I screen and place a tenant, I go through the Hemlane portal. But when I'm buying property that has a tenant in place, I'm not going to change the way they do things, how they like to pay. I give the information for them to pay me that way going forward. And what else is in the landlord introduction letter? Probably just a little blurb at the end saying, I will be reaching out to set up a time for us to meet. And I like to go and meet in person, because the way the binder strategy works is the tenants are going to ask me to raise the rent. So far, the binder strategy is effective at getting the rents raised. Sometimes the best thing would be for the tenants to leave, though. So you get new rents, do rehab. It's not what I want all the time, because I was working full-time raising 3 kids and I'm super lazy. I didn't want to do rehabs. But I don't want to do the binder strategy right away, because the tenants that are in place, you didn't get to screen. You don't know the credit score, work history, eviction status. You don't know anything. So I take about 2 months. So in those 2 months, I'm going to fix a few things. Coded locks, motion sensor LED exterior lights. Actually ask the tenant, is there any, and you might know this from the inspection, is there anything that you would want fixed? And I've never had a tenant say, well, I would like to add another bedroom, right? It's usually something like, I'd like a screen door. It gets hot here in the summer. Or the fan squeaks, right? Something simple, you fix it. So in those 2 months now, the tenant knows you're going to take care of the place. You've actually done some improvements and asked them what they want fixed. 2 months later, now you know, do they pay on time? Do you get noise complaints? Do they call you for trivial things? Like all the things that we do the background check to find out. You now have 2 months worth to know that that happens or not. Then I do the binder strategy. Also, just dependent on the lease. So if they have a 9-month lease, 9 months remaining on their lease, I'm not going to do the binder strategy right away. I'm going to do it more than 60 days before the end of the lease, so that I can give 60-day notice on the change, on the increase to the rent. Neil, howdy. Sub-2 loans in this environment, good deal or too risky? So I don't do sub-2, but here's the difference I see with now, with a couple of years ago, and why subject to became so popular. When you have uptrending prices and downtrending rates, lenders benefit from subject to. Seller has a 4% interest rate. Now, if you want to go and buy it and get a loan, you're probably going to get a 3% interest rate. So the lender is going to earn less interest. But you need a down payment. You need to qualify, right? There's all of those steps to buy the property that way. So subject to lets you buy it without all of the hassle of acquiring a mortgage. But now if somebody has a 3% interest rate and you do subject to, and you don't commit fraud by not telling the lender, right? You actually tell the lender, they benefit because interest rates are 6 or higher. They could double the amount of interest that they're getting and restart the amortization on the schedule. So of interest. Riskier now than a couple of years ago, yes. But even a couple of years ago, I didn't do that. All of my properties, I'm the super lazy, not sexy, super boring investor. Every deal's from the MLS. Every deal was purchased with a conventional loan, except for the last one. The problem I'm trying to get all of you to, I paid cash because the money built up. So I just thought I'll just buy one without a mortgage. It's not sexy. It's slow. It takes 10 years to reach financial freedom. There are people who can do it in 3 or 4 years. Maybe their situation is better than mine. Maybe they use more creative strategies, but the more creative you are, the higher the risk, usually. That real estate X factor. The more work you're willing to do, the more you can make. The more risk you're willing to take, the more money. There must be a girl around here somewhere. I had to sneeze. I've been invaded. SM, howdy, Josh. Have you ever done cost segregation? I have not, and here's the reason why. I'm not a real estate professional. So when I had W-2 income that cost segregation could help to write against, it wouldn't have helped me. Right. The criteria to be a real estate professional is not to have a real estate license or to be a lender. It is that you work at least 751 hours in real estate and that you work more in real estate than you do at your W-2. I ran a CDL school. I was demoted down to the president of the company, and I worked around 60 hours a week. In real estate, managing my properties, I average less than 2 hours a month. Usually it's around 30 minutes a month, and that's just me verifying that the rents came in, and I'll go 3 or 4 months without interacting with the tenant in any way. And then all of a sudden I'll have a month where I have 4 or 5 texts or emails. The lumberjack landlord did a cost segregation study while working in his W-2 because his spouse qualified as a real estate professional. So then they were able to do the cost segregation and use it against their income. Now he has significant W-2 income, so it helps. The other reason why I haven't done a cost segregation is, let's say I had been investing for over 30 years. I had properties paid off. I was after the depreciation schedule and I was paying tax. I've never paid a penny in rental income tax because I still have depreciation schedules going out on properties and I still have mortgages, right? So I'm a decades away from ever paying a penny in rental income tax. But if I was at that point where a cost segregation might benefit me this year, a cost segregation looks at your property and it takes the depreciation from items that can be depreciated in 5, 10, or 15 years and does them all at once. About 25% on average is what of the total value of your depreciation can be taken in 1 year, leaving 75% depreciation for the remainder of that property's ownership. I like having 100% depreciation every year more than I would like one benefit right now. It does make sense if you have a W-2, but qualify as a real estate professional, or your spouse is a real estate professional, and you would make a significant savings. Now, I think Matt's was 6-figure, like his return was 6 figures. That's worth it. I'm not in that situation. Not too many people really are. I see Dividend Dave with his dad joke of the day. What type of music do balloons hate? Pop music? Pop jokes? Dad jokes? Always dad, never daddy. Sad life. G, howdy, 2026 gang checking in. Awesome. I'm going to hold you to that. And I'm going to ask you, G, about your journey in 2025 and 2026. That's pretty cool. I like the way you look at it that way. Ariane, howdy. I have a renter who is 10 days late on January rent because he lost his dad. For background, I manage the property myself, and my lease agreement includes a $50 late fee. What is the best way to proceed? It's my goal to be transparent. So some people will say this is a business. What does the lease say? Treat your properties like you have 100 and your tenants like you only have one. If you have 100 properties, you're not going to be the person going out and changing a light bulb, right? You're going to have a system to have handyman go into an inaccessible light, take care of it. But if you only have one tenant, no matter how many you have, you treat them like you have one. You want to have compassion. So I ran a CDL school, and no offense to anybody from a certain continent, but anytime we had a student from this specific continent, their mom or their aunt passed away every single class 2 or 3 times. That was their reason for delaying, not showing up for testing, whatever it was. If your relationship with this tenant makes you think that there is deception involved, communicate clearly through emails in a way that would look good in court. I understand the situation. Here is how we can resolve it. If they're a liar and you catch them in lies like this, yeah, you can hold them to the lease. That's not what I would do, unless I had like absolute proof that they were dissembling every time we talked to each other. But if somebody just lost their father, I would say, look, we're not going to worry about the late fees this time. Here's the best way to remove all emotion and not just go, hey, I understand your dad died, just don't pay rent, right? Like that's someone on the far left side of things is going to say, well, that's what you do. No, here's what I've done with friends, because I help some friends with their rentals, right? Served eviction notices and done the binder strategy with friends and helped with lease signing. But I would say, look, I totally understand. Your rent's going to be late this month. Let's communicate when can it be paid. I totally understand. You're going through some bad things. As long as February is paid on time, we will completely waive the late fees for January. So what this does is it gives them time to grieve. It doesn't make them seem like you're trying to get this $50, because that's not what matters. What you want is them to be on track with their rent. Because if they don't pay for January, they're going to think, oh, well, I don't have to. And then they're going to spiral and go through an eviction. And you don't want to feel like that person who evicted somebody because their parent died, right? You don't want to feel that. So try to work with them. And that's how I've got my friends to make sure that the current tenant who's going to be paying late, the lease says they're going to collect the late fees, but I'll communicate through an email with them and I'll say, look, as long as next month is paid on time, the rent is paid this month, but next month's paid on time, then we'll forget the late fees for this month. And try to communicate more about, is there anything else you need, right? I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing there. Any steps? I would probably absolutely waive the late fee if there's something like that. But saying if next month is paid on time kind of puts an idea that the tenant is dealing with something, but yeah, they can get back on track. Anna K, my chat moved, which I like. Jared did a cost segregation by running a short-term rental under 7-day. There you go, 7-day average. There are times cost segregations definitely make sense. Anna K, howdy. Nate's alive today. Glad you're here. Exactly, all-nighter rider. I wanted to do I did a short where I come walking out of, we call them honey buckets here, but it's a porta potty. And I say, look, I finally found the house you can buy if you do it the Dave Ramsey way of paying all cash. Oh, look, is that a Taco Bell? I guess I'll be back here later, and then walk off the screen. Never did that one yet, though. REI stoners. Would you keep the temperature at a certain degree in a vacant unit at this time of year in Washington? Yes, it's 40 degrees in our vacant unit. Yeah, you want to have them set to minimums. I mean, the utilities are in your name, so don't have it set very high, but you don't want frozen pipes. Frozen pipes are going to cost you more than the utilities would. And problem is, frozen pipe could cause a problem, especially in your duplex in the other unit in the crawl space, that you don't know about for days until the damage is done. Have you used Thumbtack for plumbing? Yes, actually, just doing the pipes. That's why I'm waiting for a call today. But I don't. Oh, I got texts. All done and unfrozen. He's done. Oh, he texted me. Cool. I'll send you an invoice when I get back to the office. First and last name, please. I will tell him my name really quick. There we go. And they gave me the bill, and he included tax, which is great. And I'll add a tip. All done and unfrozen. Our tenant should be happy. Cool. That's so hard to be a landlord. Like, did you see how long I had to stare at that text to handle a busted pipe? I just can't take it. I'm going to go back to working 60 hours a week with 60 employees and have to deal with all their life issues like I'm a therapist. That sounds so much better. Sarcasm. So yes, I've used Thumbtack. I've actually just used it today. And so this guy did good, quick service. What's the name of his company? In case you're in the area, Empire Plumbing, Pierce County, Washington. Getting a recommendation. We'll get a good review on Thumbtack. Had good reviews. So, oh, my frozen pipe is not a problem. And I told my tenant, freezes again because you leave the door open. This is a you bill, not a me bill. It's already them a you bill. A disappointment in my grammar. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I haven't used Thumbtack for. You've just used Thumbtack for a garage door, replacement, repair, roof cleaning, siding, which is done now. Looks good. I'm not going to paint and caulk until I'm going to caulk a couple areas, which is terrible just to make sure it's done for now. But paint and caulk has to wait till the temperature hits a certain temperature. I've done painting off Thumbtack, plumbing, electricity, water heater replacement, flooring. I should be a sponsor or whatever you call it, an affiliate for that app. I've never even reached out to them other than using their service. It would suck in an area where Thumbtack doesn't exist. I think you have, was it Mary's List and a couple of other things, but connect with local REI investors and build your list of people who do different things. REI stoners, how are those push-ups going, Anna? Rich. Howdy, Rich. Is the damage deposit account separate from the account the tenant deposits the rent? Yes. And in some areas, it's required that the deposit be in an interest-bearing account because that's not your money. It's the tenant's money while it's in there, and you have to pay them the interest. And there might have been a decade where it didn't matter because the interest was 0.01 or 0.02%. But now you can get like 4% interest, and that can be a bit of money after 10, 20 years. So you have to know your local laws on whether it's a separate account or not. Ninja Vanish, I hope you get rich. Everybody reading that. Landlord Odyssey, howdy. Catching up on 2-speed. This is what a chipmunk sounds like. Oscar, howdy. If you invested in a property with an HOA that covered the roof, windows, siding, doors, etc., would you still set aside 15% for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy? I'd probably double it to 30%. Maybe even 50. The reason I don't invest in HOAs is not because the HOA fee is there and it can go up and you have no control over it. And it's not because the board in an HOA is generally made up of a bunch of people who have nothing better to do with their time than mess with their neighbors. That's just my opinion. But it's the random assessments. You can, at any point in time, get an assessment for $70,000 like Matt the Lumberjack Landlord did, where they go, we want to replace the siding on this place, so you got to write a check for $70,000. Random assessments can absolutely kill a deal. So the 3 main reasons I don't own an HOA. I own one in an HOA because I bought a house before I was an investor, and I'm stupid. And it's the only one I don't like. Is it too soon for an overshare? Makes my eyes water. I kept the house and custody of the kids through my divorces. Always good at keeping a house and kids, never good at keeping a girl around. I'm not sure what's the better one to trade off with. But since I kept the house, the best deployment of capital would be to sell that house, buy a duplex. But I'm keeping it because I'm petty. Even with the HOA being an added reason why I should sell it, like it is, the HOA there really doesn't do much except for it's a shared community well, right? The well water comes from the community in this place. That's what the HOA is for. I expect at any point in time a $20,000 bill for every homeowner because they have to put in a whole new system. I don't like owning that property, but I don't like my ex enough to not sell it. Definitely an overshare. All-nighter hider, thanks. Kevin. Howdy, Kevin. I have a month-to-month tenant who paid 2 days after the grace period, who paid the late fee and rent in full on day 7th. His excuse was illness, but he always waits until the last moment to pay. Should I be worried? Should I talk to him preemptively? Feels like it may happen again next month. I would not have a problem with that. I collect the late fee all the time. Anytime a tenant has asked me, so Kevin, hopefully you haven't heard this before because I don't want to repeat myself, but maybe somebody else hasn't heard this. Anytime a tenant asks, hey, I'm going to pay the rent late, is that okay? I just point out three things. One, we have a lease in place. It's absolutely fine. You can pay it late. Here's how the late fee works. Now, the person who, and I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, just literally like 10 minutes ago, who had somebody pass away, yeah, I'd be more compassionate. But if they're just saying, hey, I don't have the money, I need to pay rent late, here's how the late fee works. So your guy paid the rent late, and if he wants to pay it rent late next month, totally fine. I think somebody I know, I don't know if it's Millennial Mike or Lumberjack Landlord, has a tenant who pays late all the time and pays the late fees. Great. It's extra money. It totally works. However, I also tell the tenant, and if it's going to be late, the day after the grace period, I'm going to serve you with an eviction notice. The idea being, you can't qualify for rental assistance. Some of those agencies won't even talk to you until you've been served. So as a favor to you, I'm going to serve you with an eviction paper. You should see the comments in the chat anytime I say that in a video, because some people don't know me and they think that's heartless. No, I'm helping them get assistance. I actually had my friend Dan Pitchler serve a person, and the lady cried and tried to give him a hug and said thank you, because once she got served for my friend, she was able to get rental assistance, get a couple of months paid for, got moved into a place that she can afford. And then so the first thing is, yes, here's how the late fees work. Second thing is, here's the eviction. Sounds like you don't need to do that because it's already been paid. Third thing is, I have a little brief Dion talk, and I explain the math of time. And I say, look, I understand you want to pay your rent late. I totally get it. Things happen. Here's how the late fee works. Here's how the eviction works. But have you thought about, in an average month, as a tenant, you usually have about 4 weeks to get the rent together for next month. If we pay it a week late this month, right? It's due on the 1st, grace period is till the 5th. You paid on the 7th, you're a week late. You only have 3 weeks now to get the rent together for next month. Do you see what you did to yourself there? I don't want to set you up for failure. Yeah, it's legal. Our lease is in place. And yeah, you'll probably pay before the eviction goes through. But eventually it'll end in a real eviction, because that 3 weeks will become 2 weeks and 1 week. And who can get the rent together in just 1 week? Every time I've had that last 3-minute conversation with a tenant, because the tenant is generally looking at all of their expenses and going, I want to go out, I want to eat out, I want to take this trip, I want to buy these things, and I'm going to look at my cell phone bill, my internet, my streaming services, and my my landlord, that's not a property manager, that's a person with heartstrings I could pull on. Let me see if I could pay them late, right? That's kind of the mental process, probably 90% of the time. Sometimes they actually have a tragedy and you can work with them to take care of it. But if it's just late, that conversation, a decade now, no later missing rent payments. Not even through the pandemic. Hope that helps. Paula, howdy. And Dave. All-nighter hider. Oh. You know you missed my dad jokes, hider. Are you coming to Vegas, Dave? If anybody is unaware, the One Rental at a Time community is celebrating Michael Zuber hitting 50,000 subscribers on his channel, which is a heck of an accomplishment. In February, on the 17th and 18th, at the Center for the Blind in, oh, that's ironic. I didn't even think of that. In Vegas. I did an interview yesterday with this awesome guy. And I actually kind of feel selfish that during the interview, I was like, oh, I'm going to set up another interview with this guy in the future. Not because I thought, I mean, he's going to have information for the video that's great. I just thought he was cool, and I get to spend more time with him that way. But I interviewed this guy, this gentleman, Bob, whose video will come out Thursday, who lost his sight at 20, has been investing over 20 years, right? So his entire investing life basically has been done without vision, and has 260 rentals. This mountain of knowledge, survived through the 2008 crash. Talks about how he benefited from the 2020 events. And so I have that video coming out on Thursday. Ironic, where we're having the ORAT event. Let's just put that together. Hank Hill, howdy. that your real name? Because I want to make propane jokes, but I don't want to be rude. Who's responsible for window covers, blinds, if there's nothing in the lease mentioning it? If they're not there when the tenant moves in, those are the tenants. Some places require window coverings to be a rental, so you have to know your local laws. I put in blinds, and then here I've got the ones inside the doors. I like the faux wood, so it's white plastic fake wood ones. I don't like the aluminum ones that break all the time. It's like the white wooden one looking, but they're plastic. Lowe's or Home Depot, get them, they cut them in there down to size. I put them in. Once they're in, they're my responsibility. And depending on how they break, it can be the tenant's problem, right? If something hits it and breaks one of the pieces, that's a tenant problem. If they're pulling down, because I use the cordless ones, if they're pulling down and it breaks the bracket or whatever, that's a me problem. And at move out, they have to be the way they were when the tenant moved in. So that's part of the walkthrough video. So it can be either. And that's how I do it. I put them in. So I own some places that probably don't even have any because I purchased them and they were the way they were before I owned it. And I had a phone call. Who was that? No. Okay. I appreciate your patience while I make sure that all of my handymen are happy. Tony, howdy. Should I buy a rental in 2024? I just called my bank, Chase, and offered me over 8% interest rate on an investment property before paying points, if I am willing to pay. I would pay 50% interest or 20% interest. That actually doesn't tell me whether it's a good deal or not. What's the yield, right? Annual profit divided by cost to acquire. The profit is determined based on the payment and the rents. You can have a great deal at 20% interest. It's probably going to be really hard to find, but it can. So if you're at 8%, you buy it down to 6%. Most of my mortgages were purchased above 6% when wages were a lot less. The thing that's changed, and I talked about this, Tony, at the very beginning, high prices, high rates, rents aren't keeping up, right? So instead of making fast offers to try to get my offer accepted before the seller realized how many offers they were going to get, I've been watching days on market. Right, I started with 30, went to 60, and then I ultimately went to 91 days. I set up my searches with my agents for 91 days. Basically with the idea that a listing is on the MLS for 90 days. So if it's on 91 days, they've relisted it. So they've taken action at 91 days to relist it. So then I looked and I found a couple of deals that this one was on 147 days. The other one I looked at was like 110 or 120 days. Made offers, got 2 accepted. At 80%. So one was listed at 500. I went at 4. One was listed at 460 and I went at 390, whatever that percentage turns out to be. Both got accepted. Ended up taking just the one. And I will never know which was the right one to pursue. But this is the one I'm in. So you can totally have a good deal at a high interest rate. Right now, it's watch days on market and make a significantly lower offer than what they have it listed at, where the higher rate, the lower price, and the current rents get you the yield you're looking for. So the rates, the price, the rents, the market, the possibility of recession is not what tells you whether you're going to buy. Very beginning of the video, first I actually kept it to 15 minutes this time. Super happy with myself because that's rare, because apparently I can talk. So much that I lose my track of thought. Track of speech. Words are hard. I need more water. Side note, this Saturday, Millennial Mike and me are going to be at, and I are going to be at the Robin Hood Resort for the Christian and Cody Multifamily Strategies Asset Management gather. I think Lumberjack Landlord is presenting via Zoom. Hope to see you all there if you can make it. The 2 things that tell you when you should buy, Tony, are you ready? Meaning there's nothing weird going on in your life like birth, death, divorce, and you've studied your market, you know your asset class, you know how to recognize a good deal, right? And did you find a great deal? Those are the 2 things that tell you to buy, not the market, not the prediction of a recession, not interest rates or prices. It's, are you ready? Did you find a great deal? So yeah, if they're going to give you a loan at 8%, maybe you buy down the rate and you get a 6. Maybe you don't buy down the rate, but you find a deal where with the interest rate, that price, At those rents, you get the yield you're looking for. You might find it tomorrow. You might find it in 2026. The idea is you look every day. You want to be looking, because if you're not looking, you won't find it. And Tony, the last thing to think of is if anybody tells you to hurry and buy, they're stupid, block them. And if anybody tells you to wait because of the crash, the recession, whatever, to wait and buy, they're stupid, you should block. Are you ready? Did you find a great deal? It has nothing to do with hurrying or waiting and nothing to do with the market. Janitor on Fire. I just finished Building Wealth One House at a Time by John Schwab. Great book. I will have to check it out. Wayne Wong. Tony, shop around with other lenders, brokerages too. Yeah, so order of operations. Thank you, Wayne, for reminding me, because I've said it several times. I'm stupid. Got these memory issues. Order of operations for lending is you got approval right now for 8%. You could buy it down. Find out how much it would cost to buy it down. Once you find the deal worth pursuing and you make an offer and it's accepted, then I go to other lenders. Right? I start generally with Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, like one of the big banks, because they're kind of standardized lending. Once I have an offer accepted, first, before I even schedule the inspection or the appraisal, I contact at least 3 other lenders, different types. Credit Union, Guild Mortgage, Fairway Mortgage, Matt the Mortgage Guy, Convoy Mortgage, it's Convoy Home Loans, or Velocity Mortgage, right? You get 3 emails sent off saying, I'm looking at buying this property. Here's what my current lender's offering me, this percent with this amount to buy it down, in writing in the email. Can you beat it? If they can match it, you stay with the bank. If they can beat it, you take what they offered to beat it back to the bank and give them a chance to keep your business. If they can match what they offered that was better, I go with the bank. If they can beat it, I go with the bank. And if they can't, then I go with the other lender. Stephan and Dave, Jared, long time no see. Thanks for that super chat, but I don't understand your dad joke. Angel, what's your credit, Tony? Shop around. There you go. Good point. Jason, do you need to have one CPA? I have one CPA. I don't know if I would want more than that. My current account and doesn't really do real estate. Oh, I'd find one that does. Does anyone have 2 separate ones, one for W-2 and one for real estate? I don't know that I would want 2 separate CPAs. I would personally, if I was you, Jason, I would look at Jason Langworthy. Bean Counters is the one that Matt, the lumberjack landlord, recommends, and I'm probably switching to. I'm currently happy with my CPA. He also does rentals and is pretty focused, but I think Bob has better prices. And so it's skill and quality, but financial aspect of it too. Neil, howdy. Have you dealt with units that don't have separate meters for units? Yes. Best way to handle utilities, fixed rate, including rubs. Anytime there's not been separate meters, I had separate meters when possible. I have a couple of places where the municipality will only let the owner of the property pay the water or septic bill or sewer bill, not septic, water or sewer. So it has to be paid by the owner. So in that case, know your local laws. A lot of places will not let you charge a penny more than what you're being charged. You're not allowed to profit off of utilities. So what you do there is you put it in your lease. You're going to pay utilities 1 month in the rear. So every time you get your bill, the next month the tenant pays that. What I chose to do, because it's legal in my area, make sure it's legal in yours, is I took kind of an average. Most months it's like $47 a month for the water. So I charge $55 or $60 because 1, 2, or 3 months in the summer, the water bill is like $150, right? So, or $120 or something, to where that was the average. If I took it up to that 55 or 60, it was a little more than most months, but lower than those months that spike, enough to where it balanced out to where it was basically break even. I think in most places it's better to do you receive the bill, you bill the tenant later. Separate meters does make it a challenge because let's say you have 2 3-bedroom units. One is a person who works at home and just wanted offices to work in, and then the other one is a husband and wife with 4 kids. Is it a fair division of water and sewer to cut them in half? It is if you are paying the minimum for water and sewer. If your water bill spikes and goes over the usage, right? I think in some places it's 1 or 4,000 gallons of water is a fixed amount. Very rarely will you ever go above that, except for those few months in the summer. And then you spike in those months. That's where the division becomes hard. I would never want utilities in my name, electricity or gas, that the tenant then paid me for on a flat rate. Because you'll have the tenant say, hey, it's really cold. You should come over. Doors open all the time. because the door's open and the heater's on, right? Because you're paying for that. Whenever possible, one of my criteria is the ability to put utilities in the tenant's name. And in one place, I had to add a separate meter. One of the things that almost stopped the deal that I'm in now, and me and Millennial Mike did some videos on this. We actually had to made the offer on the property. I was scheduling the inspection and the appraisal. Still didn't know if it was a duplex. Right? There was a word duplex in the description, but nowhere else did it say that. No pictures showed that. No separate meters, no parking, no nothing. So we actually drove out here to the property to look at it and couldn't see the meters from the road. So I called the electric company and the gas company, and the electric company said, we can't give you any information. You're not the owner. The gas company said these exact words. We can't give you any information. You're not the owner. But I can tell you that both meters are turned off due to non-payment. So they can't give me information, but they can tell me the owner's not paying, which told me financial distress, stick to your numbers on your offer. The rent by the room, I would watch Todd Baldwin. He's got strategies on how to do that. I think he just does a higher rent, so utilities are included in the rent for the rent by the room. Good old times, howdy, and that's Todd. I'll put it in the chat. I'd probably reach out to him on Instagram. He's done a couple BiggerPockets interviews. He's some like millennial millionaire shows, but he invests in Seattle, does rent by the room, has some great strategies on how all that works. Not my strategy, but he's good for that. Good old times. Thanks for the response, Dion. We just closed on our first duplex. Congratulations, January of this year. Our initial interest rate was quoted at 7.125 in November, but dropped to 6.8 by the time we closed, saving us around $200 a month. Awesome. And you can continue to watch rates in the next 3, 4, 5 years. If rates ever get, I would go like more than 1.5. A lot of people say 1 point lower, they'd refinance. I would do 1.5 or more lower. I would refinance. Dividend Dave, first Tibbs on Dion's properties aren't midlife crisis is wonderful. Oh, wait, sarcasm. Exactly. And then my chat moved, which I appreciate. Need more questions. REI Stoners, when you go over your lease with a new tenant at signing, what's your process? Do you read them each section and initial certain pages? I make sure they understand that they're going to get an emailed copy. After we sign them, I'm going to scan it in and send it to them. I have a lease here. I think I just signed with somebody. 6 pages long. I mean, REI Stoners, I've actually sent you my lease, which is only good if you invest in Washington State. And even then, I would still take it to an attorney in the counties that you invest and make sure that it matches what they would have in there. I look at each page, and so my process, there's probably a better way, but my process is I look at each section and I explain the section. Here's the section on severability. The entire lease is binding unless we both write a statement saying we're going to change it. Here's, I can't be retaliatory. I can't shut off your water, your power. I kind of just talk like this. And here's the section that says you can't have guests more than 5 days without adding them to the lease. Here's how you do that. Here's how the late fees work. I just go through at the bottom of every page. I have them initial. And I say, you are absolutely welcome to take your time and read this if you want. And I've never had anybody do that yet. It's possible that they can. And then they initial each page, and I say you're initialing each page so that the landlord can't sneak in another page. You're marking how many pages have been added to this lease. And then we sign and date the back. And then I make sure to scan and send them a copy right away. And I see that Ninja Vanish gifted a financial freedom talk to G. Howdy. Hope to see you in the next members only chat. The members only chats, we look at deals. We specifically open up markets. We stream of consciousness go through. What would a deal look like? What do we consider? How do the numbers look? What physical aspects of the property can we tell from the listing? All of those things. Super boring. That's why I don't do it here on regular YouTube, because I think it would kill my channel. But for the people who show up, we all jump on Zoom together and we look at deals, preferably yours, because I don't want to look at more deals this year. I'm not in growth phase. I'd rather help somebody look at their deals. So thank you for doing that, Ninja Vanish. REI owners have 14 months of members only and haven't seen one new big. Is that true? Huh. You know, every one of these videos, pants are optional, right? BuzzTune, howdy. For Zuber's event, what advice would you give for a new investor going to an REI conference for the first time? Thanks. So I would take the strategy that I used to grow my CDL school. And I was an instructor who was slowly demoted down to management at the company. Apparently, I'm okay at talking to people, and I had some ideas that grew the company. But I didn't know how to run a CDL school. I didn't know how to run a business. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a W-2 employee. So I joined this thing called the Northwest Career Colleges Federation. You could check them out. At the time, it was about 112 vocational schools. And after being there for a year, even though I went there to learn because I knew nothing, I was demoted down to the president of the Northwest Career Colleges Federation and went and do presentations to the Transportation Committee, the Higher Ed Committee, military installations. Apparently, I like to talk too much. So I would go to their conventions and I would sit down with the CEO of ITT Tech, the CEO of DeVry, the CEO of like all these nationwide vocational schools who had 2,000 employees. We're doing $90 million in gross revenue on that's why they got shut down on student loans. Our school didn't do student loans, right? But I wanted to learn how do you learn to structure a business? And I've got a video on my channel called How to Run It Like a Business. And I break down, here's how a CDL school runs like a business or any vocational school and how I treat my real estate exactly the same. But when I would go to those conventions, the presenters, yes, I have a couple questions I would want to ask. There's like certain people I want to see talk, right? Or maybe meet in person kind of thing. But that's a room. For me at the time, it was a room full of people who were running schools. You had people from the, not recruiting, but the admitting sections. You had people from the job placement sections. You had people from the HR to run the school. You had the insurance reps. You had all of these different aspects, right, that were there to learn. How can you interact? Right now, can you just go and say, hey, lender, I want to go and sit and talk to you, but there's going to be lenders there at Zuber's event. Can you go and just go and sit and talk, have a side conversation with somebody who has 240 units? Right? They'll do YouTube things and we'll answer questions like this, but those side conversations, that's what I would be looking for. I think when I went to Zuber's event last time and I met Frank and Cynthia, like in person at the event, put face to name to absolutely when they reach out, I'm going to prioritize answering this question, right? That kind of interaction with the people that you're there. If there's people who invest in this the way that you do, like if you're there and you want to invest out of state and you reach out to Millennial Mike right now, today on Instagram, he'll probably answer. He answers pretty much everybody. But you meet at an event and you talk to him and you have that impression. And then a month later, you reach out on Instagram and you ask something and you can reference. We met at Robinhood and we talked about this. Here's my question today. That's top of list for him to answer. That's what I would do. How can you network there? The side conversations are probably going to be as educational, if not more educational, than what happens on stage. And side note, that's for me too. Right? I'm still going to the event. I'm going to interact with people on the side. So I look forward to each one of those interactions. Neil, 25% down investment loan, good old times. Did I miss something there? Good old times. Oh yeah. So for that down payment. Okay, cool. That's for the loan. Neil, HOAs are terrifying right now with all the building failures. Might see more safety regulations and get massive hits. Agreed. James, howdy. Dion, are you still a big fan of the Schlage digital locks over Kwikset? I need to buy about 10 of them, so I'm really struggling to find the most reliable. Okay, I think I'm ready to make that video. I used Schlage for 10 plus years. I've had one that went to install it, didn't work, sent it back, got a new one. So I've had one issue, never had a tenant lockout. I don't even think I've had to, is that true? No, I replaced one at a friend's, so none of my locks, but I helped a friend replace a Schlage lock at her rental. So I have seen them fail. It's possible, right? So mine was one bad on installation, and hers was one probably there 2 years, and then it failed. Kwikset. Put 3 in where I'm staying. Right, this is my task before I F over a tenant. How do I feel about this? I hate them. They suck. Barely work. Door has to line up so exactly, and it's the kind that I often talk about. I don't want Wi-Fi locks because I don't do short-term rental, and I don't care when people are coming and going. 2, I don't want a mechanized thing to engage the bolt and disengage the bolt because that kills battery, and that's what Quickset is here. I like the way Schlag is. You put in the code and it locks so that you can turn it closed or open. You're the physical strength to do it. And when you're doing that, when you're turning it, your subconscious will push or pull on the door exactly to get it to line up. Quickset doesn't do that. So it'll bind and click and click and click, and then nothing works 3 or 4 times to try to get it to work. Never buying Quickset again. Probably, hopefully, as they fail here, replacing these 3. So that will be a standalone video. Why I don't buy Quickset. Also, weird side note, they are not going to sponsor this channel. That has just been guaranteed. Angel, with interest rates so high, I'm better off paying my properties. Probably better off paying off my properties. Do you have high interest rates on your properties now? Right, if you've owned your properties from 2021 or prior, hopefully you refinanced in 2020 to 3 or 4% when 2021 got it at 4%. It's only the ones that you've purchased in the last year or two that you could possibly benefit from paying down, but you're also, remember, it's not just what the interest rate you're paying. What's the yield on the property? Buying another property versus paying down a debt. So when you acquire the current debt, you paid the appraisal fee, you paid to buy the rate down, you've spent money to acquire that debt, and now you want to pay it off. Versus you're going to spend that money to buy the next debt, which is going to start a new depreciation schedule. It's going to get you appreciation on 4 times what you're investing because of leverage, versus when you pay off that debt, you're only now gaining appreciation on the amount that you pay it off. So to me, it's a better use to buy property than to pay off the debt. I do have a video. I paid off a property and it cost me $1 million. It's how I lost $1 million. That's a video on my channel. And I have Matt and Mike both there to laugh at me about how dumb it was to pay off my property. There were a couple mitigating factors. It was above 6%. It was my lowest debt, highest interest rate, so it hit the debt avalanche, hit the debt snowball. At the time, lenders were only letting you have 4 conventional loans in your name, right? So like I didn't educate myself on DSCR, asset-based, seller financing, subject to all of the creative ways to do it. I've just done conventional. So I don't regret paying off a property. No one ever regrets having a paid off property. I can logically nail down that it was the wrong decision. Owed 121,000, took about 1.5 to 2 years to pay it off. I could have took that 121,000 and bought another fourplex like the one that I did, which has appreciated $1 million since I purchased it. So I'm missing out on $1 million of appreciation on a property I could have purchased because at the time I thought it made sense to pay off a mortgage. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong for you, right? Your situation is totally yours and unique. It might be the best call for you. Well, overshared time. Was it worth it? Jared, we are getting better. 33 likes of 80 people watching so far, 41%. That is much appreciated. I love that. Every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings and somebody retires before Lumberjack Landlord. Neil, thank you. I feel like a tenant might butcher the installation, might be better off just install cheap ones. What were they installing? HOAs are terrifying. I missed it. Sorry. REI Stoners. My lease is lawyer approved, but he had me take out the section where a tenant has to pay 2 months rent if they want to break the lease. It had to do it with a 20-day law, right? So I did 20-day notice, but if they break it early, I basically make it the month's rent. That currently hasn't been outlawed in Washington. I try not to do too many things like deposit or lease termination above a month's rent, but go off what your attorney says. Neil, curious what's the minimum yield or internal rate of return you'd take to now acquire just getting 8% from S&P? Should do a live session looking through listings. So we do the members only. That's where we look through listings. Because it's kind of boring and dry, and we're literally looking at the screen and talking to each other. And I think if somebody on YouTube came in, what kills a YouTube channel is somebody coming into the video and clicking out. Right? That's what would happen there. Jared, $2 for blinds. There you go. I appreciate that. I do prefer blinds to any type of curtain. Have you not seen every single movie ever that has a fire scene? It's the curtains. Sorry. Let's celebrate a third super on a live stream. Thank you, Jared. That's awesome. Any tax prepper recommendations for Jamil? Sorry, this is out of order, but Jamil, yes. Bean counters, look up Bob Langworthy. That's who Matt the Lumberjack Landlord recommends. And my CPA guy that I right now use is out of Alaska and does not take new clients. It's such a weird business model to not want to grow, but he doesn't take new clients. But Bob Langworthy, highly recommend. I've communicated with him. He responds quickly. So, okay, Neil, quick Dion talk on, let's say 10% return guaranteed on a savings account. So it's not even S&P. Like the risk of volatility in the market. You take $100,000 and you put it in a saving account and you get a 10% interest on it. Guaranteed, no matter what. It's not even a time lock thing. It's not a CD. You just put your money in there. As long as it's in there, they'll give you 10%. Or 5% cash on cash return on a rental. 10% interest guaranteed, 5% on a rental. I take the 5% all day long because you nail it in your question. Internal rate of return. So the 5% cash on cash return with a rental versus the 10% of the savings. 10% on the savings is taxed, right? So 30%, 20%, you're going to lose $2,000 or $3,000 there and end up with $7,000 or $8,000 in return. 5% cash on cash return. So we take $100,000, we put it into a rental property, we're going to make $5,000 as a 5% cash on cash return. Took $100,000 to acquire the property, and we made $5,000 in profit. And that's profit after principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. Everything is $5,000. Because of depreciation and write-offs, the $5,000 is not taxed. So now it's $5,000 versus $7,000 or $8,000. That still sounds better, right? But that $7,000 or $8,000 on that $100,000 sitting in the bank is the full internal rate of return. When we look at the 5%, which is just cash flow on the rental, you are gaining, and you can Google this, the average appreciation of real estate in the United States is 5% per year. Yes, in 2020, it was 24% in my state. And then in 2021, it was 19% in my state. So you can have some significantly higher years, but in an overall long-term average, 5%. But you don't gain 5% on the 100,000 that you put in. That 100,000 was a 25% down payment. So we purchased a $400,000 property. 5% appreciation on $400,000 is a gain of $20,000 plus the 5% from the cash on cash return. The tenants are going to pay off in the first year about 1% of the mortgage. So we have a 26% return on the rental that is not taxed because of depreciation and write-offs. Can be 1031. With the stepped up basis, our inheritors aren't even going to pay money on this. Versus the money that's sitting in the bank where you got 7,000 or 8,000 versus 26,000 in gains the first year. By third year, almost every rental, well, not almost every rental property that I've owned to the third year is better than a 20% return because rents go up, mortgage goes up slowly, rents go up significantly. Rental every time. It's when you start going, okay, if I buy a rental and I lose 1% versus I have a savings account, make 1%, the savings account starts to win, right? I don't want a negative cash flow asset. But 5% on a rental to me, just destroys 10% guaranteed return in a saving account, let alone the 8% you average with stocks. So I might be biased. Remember, rental properties and debt make it to where I never have to work again in my life. And as a very lazy person, that's pretty cool. Jared, I am thinking things will thaw out enough by this weekend so I can make it up to the Robin Hood. Awesome. That would be nice. Roads have been pretty good. I just wouldn't drive at sundown, and you live in Oregon, coming through Washington, anywhere where there's trees, careful of the shade. That won't be good. My chat moved, sorry. Ben, howdy. I've always wondered about landlords putting tenant in a hotel. What would be the reasoning and logistics of that? I've done it. septic system backed up, busy time, couldn't get somebody there for 4 days. So for those 4 days, I put one tenant in a hotel. The other tenant didn't want a hotel. They were just, oh, we'll stay at home. We can go shower at the gym. We can go to a laundromat for lunch. So for those 4 days, and I think I made a rent adjustment for them to satisfy that problem. But that was the thing, is if the place is not livable, I don't even think it was in our lease to do it. I was just like, keep a happy tenant. Happy tenants don't leave. Happy tenants don't trash the property. And happy tenants have a better experience for you when you do the binder strategy. Yeah. So there are times where the place is unlivable because something like that. Let's say if it needs to be fumigated, I'd probably put them in a hotel. Other times, water flooding is usually the issue. Yeah. There are specific cases. It might be possible in a place like Siberia where Matt, the lumberjack landlord, invests, or the East Coast, whatever you want to call it. If the gas line breaks and they can't can't heat the place in certain times of the year, I'd probably think of that as well. Armando, howdy. Do you believe listing a rental slightly under market rate generates a bigger pool of qualified tenants to choose from? I do, and I think it helps limit turnover. The perception that the person is getting a deal. So here's kind of an example. I did a video recently where I had a rental turnover. I had a tenant that was in the Air Force, got orders, gave me plenty of notice, and he left. I'll miss him. He was a great guy. It was a great tenant to have. Kept trying to tell him over and over he should buy a fourplex. He shouldn't be renting a unit in a fourplex. And I advertised a new unit. I had 27 people show up for I did an open house version of touring. I had 6 people fill out applications. First guy's there. He wants it so bad. He says, look, I'll just Zelle you the deposit. Guy walks in behind him and goes, I really like the place. We'll offer you $150 a month more than what you've listed it at. So on that video, I studied the market and I found that, 2,000, 2,100, maybe 2,200 was kind of the area average for 2 bedrooms in that area. And I listed at 1,950. I went just under, and I did do new flooring, new paint, a friend do the banister. It looks really nice in there. I've actually done a video live while that unit was vacant in the unit. I kept the guy at 1,950. I didn't take the guy who offered more. What I have is a tenant who saw the demand, saw that I could have got more. So next year, binder strategy will probably go pretty well. But this year, that's a happy tenant, being just below average. Now, Matt, the lumberjack landlord, with his size of his portfolio and the really nice high-end finishes, at least they look, so he's got good ways of doing this cost effectively, but makes them look really nice. He can get top rents and be just fine. But part of my strategy, and I have an interview on an interesting podcast coming up soon, where I'm the guest, and I'm going to talk about the reason I was able to reach financial freedom being a lazy person is because I specifically targeted properties and strategies that limit tenant turnover. If you were in an area and area rents are 2,000 to 2,200, and I'm at 1,950, my tenant will not leave to save any money. But if I'm in an area that's 2,000 to 2,200 and I'm at 2,100, it's entirely possible that tenant might step down for $100 a month somewhere, right? So I like being a little bit below. That doesn't mean I'll kill my yield. It doesn't mean I'll negative cash flow. But yeah, I do prefer to be a little bit under. It's why I like to buy properties with tenants in place so that I don't have to do a rehab at that cost to my purchase, my cost to acquire. I use a binder strategy and fix some simple things. Happy tenants don't trash the place and they don't leave. And if they don't leave, you don't have tenant turnover. It's like physics. Main bean counters. Thank you, Wealth Building Journey. I appreciate it. Jared. A good home inspector is critical in my opinion. Totally agree. I have a house under contract. An inspector found 1.5-inch gap cracks under carpet in master and in the garage. We are still negotiating, but they most likely will not go for what we offered. Never split the difference, right? So I purchased a fourplex, and so the numbers, it's been a while now, but I think I remember this. It was listed at, I bought it for $590. That's what we closed on. He was listed for $6 or $595, and I offered $6. Whatever it was, I offered $5,000 over asking. We settled $10,000 below because I asked for, I think it was 20 or 30,000 below. Because when you negotiate, Jared, you asked for significantly lower because you found these cracks, which is usually Foundation issues like that are kind of actually not that hard to fix. Get several quotes on, I had the place that I'm in now, I had a foundation guy that came in. I had 2 or 3 quotes at 2,500, 4,000. And then another guy comes out here and he goes, $500, I'll do it right now. He had everything in his truck. It was his specialty. He was a foundation guy. And it's great. So you get several quotes. Those when you find separation cracks that are going up and down, it's not usually as big of a problem as people think. It's when you have slab built or places with basements. So depending on the property, yes, foundation issues can be a huge problem. But if I have an open basement here that I didn't even know existed. I've had crawl spaces, and foundation issues are actually not that hard to fix. Neil, yeah, with house hacks, this is a problem with rent by the room. Can be, yep. Neil, if anyone here wants to sell smaller units 4 to 20 because they want to move up to bigger buildings, let me know. I've thoroughly encouraged networking in the chat, and I think this is a good place to do that. I believe, God, I hate it that my memory works so I think Jared is a private money lender. Correct me, Jared, if it's the other way around. But I think you're a private money. I think you're somebody people can reach out to for that. I hate my memory. I apologize if that was wrong. There we go. Ninja Vanish, hope you get rich. I still reiterate that. Dion, that house we looked at and the members only is the one with the major foundation issues. Yeah, I think you were talking about some other things that might pop up too. The negotiation is to ask for more than you expect so that when they counter, you're closer to where you want to be. Different Dave, sending you nude pics now. Nice. Good old times. Neil, this was actually an owner-occupied house hack duplex. We then rented out our single-family home. Nice. Sounds familiar. Wandering Doc. Howdy. Fellow retired person. My HOA payment for a condo I own in Mililani, Hawaii went from $510 to $780 from December to January. Good times. And you have no control. Yeah. Curtis, would you house hack a duplex if after you moved out, it only broke even? Depends on what is break even. Are you setting aside for future repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, or is break even and then repairs are going to cost you? So if your repairs are going to cost you, then no. If it's break even and it took no money out of pocket to acquire, more than likely not. But what if you're buying a duplex like me and REI Stoners did in an area where I knew for years that a mushroom farm that was there that had a smell for a 5-mile radius, not diameter, but radius 5 mile, was going away, lost the lawsuit and had to move. And that the freeway overpass next to the Cabela's, the Walmart, the Costco, the Home Depot, all at the off-ramp, was being replaced with a figure-8 cross-traffic European version, millions and millions of dollars being spent to upgrade that. I would have bought that if I knew those things about that market on a break-even deal. Now, it wasn't a break-even deal. It's actually my video that's on my channel on how I calculate the numbers. Bought it for $298. It's a good cash flow. It's a ridiculous cash flow now, ridiculous yield, because there are things that pop up like expenses. I think that's my next roof I'm doing. And that's where the tree was that had to be taken down that I talked about at the beginning of this video. So there's expenses that the tenants are paying for. Generally, though, no, I'm not going to do a break-even deal. So understand the chronology of investing too. When you're in growth phase, absolutely not. When you're in retirement phase, if it's a good enough deal in the right market that you want, and I want to house hack, like the one that I just moved into, it's in a town, walking distance to 12, let's say restaurants, bars, and a 260-degree water view, 2 full-side wraparound deck, top and bottom. I'm moving here for more than the cash flow, which is also there. Was in a video on Zuber's channel one time, one of his 100 people on Zoom, and I think his name was Frank, if I remember, maybe. He was, I think, 60 or 70 and retired and looking at buying his house. And Zuber said, hey, don't think yield. This is where you want to live. Like, what do you want to live in? That's also a factor in it. But don't compare year 1 to year 10. KS, howdy. Would you buy a property that has an ADU professionally done but no permit? I'd contact the municipality and the county and find out what the restrictions are on the no permit. Would it pass an electrical inspection and a plumbing inspection? I'd get those permits done before I would own it, because if a place is deemed uninhabitable in some areas, retroactively, the owner might have to remunerate the tenant of all rents ever collected. I don't want to be in that position. So yeah, I'm learning with this bird that I'm in now that yeah, the city sucks to work with. Uh, Electrical permits were easy because the electrician goes to labor and industries. That system works out. Plumbing, kind of a pain, because it was with the city. The tree was with the city. It was kind of a pain this year because I had a dead tree to come out. I had to get approved. I had to ask for permission to take out a dead tree. Love our government. And then all of the siding. So here was the magic trick with the siding. In this city that I'm in, if you do siding that's over 1,000 square feet, you need a permit. And the current delay for getting a siding permit is somewhere between 6 months and 9 years. Somehow that makes sense to some tard in an office somewhere. So I'm doing the lower half of the unit, siding, done now, less than 1,000 square feet. That project will be completely done. And then I will do the upper half of the siding, which is less than 1,000 square feet. 2 separate jobs, checked with the city, and they said, yeah, it's less than 1,000 square feet. You don't need a permit. So anytime it is buy an ADU, do anything with permits, or build something in a city, check with the local contractors and ask, what is this city like to work with? Because I will never, I want to say, no matter the yield, own another property in, I don't want to name anybody by name, but Lakewood, Washington, ever. And I'm half considering maybe never Port Orchard again. Jared, I use Safely locks for remote management via the gateway since I live in Oregon and property is in Arizona. The only issue I have is install. You need a cycle to handle while you tighten. Yeah, good. At a distance, it's a totally different animal than with me, and you probably have somebody there to maintenance the locks when things happen. I do like I preferably target Class C properties. I don't like B, don't like A, don't want D. So I'm in Class C. The tenants actually, that so far my experience has been they really like getting coded locks because they're used to having keys, and it's kind of nice not to. And having 2 exterior doors with coded locks, I've never had a tenant lockout because the odds of a battery dying in 2 at the same time is basically nil. Oh, Jared, talking about blinds being installed by tenants. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have a problem with tenants installing blinds. I haven't had an issue with that yet. I'd be more concerned about tenants changing the light bulb. That's why I put in, I could almost show you here, the flat LED circular lights in every room so that they're 30-year, you replace the whole thing, not a bulb. Um, Clinton Roberts, take a page from Zuber, start a new page for your boring videos. Start a new page for your boring videos. That is an interesting idea. Huh. All right, so I'm going to be wrapping up here in about 10 minutes, and I have some actual from the heart questions to ask the people that come all the time. And that question might actually help me with that. Let me look through really quick and see if there's any questions, and then I might just wrap up with that. Wandering Dog, been a while. What's new? What's new? Robinhood event for Cody and Christian's multifamily strategies event is this Saturday. The One Rental at a Time Vegas meetup is February 17th and 18th at the Center for the Blind in Vegas. There will be a few, I believe, Wednesday and Thursday midnight Denny's meetings for people that are in the area prior to the weekend. That's what's new. Wood Floor Alchemist, what's up? Howdy, good to see you here. Rich, good to hear. We just met with our tenants. Nice. Angel R, did you guys always do 25% down? I did 5% down on my first duplex. 20% down on my house hack fourplex, 25% down on everything else. And my last one, I purchased cash. You can recycle capital. This is where you take out a home equity line of credit, do a cash out refinance, sell a property for a 1031, right? You take the existing equity, add debt to an asset, or sell the asset and lose it, and then purchase the next property. Basically, less or no money out of pocket. That's entirely possible. Gives you a bigger unit count with smaller margins. I went the other way. I want slow, boring, not sexy, save a down payment, buy the next property. In the beginning, a house hack 5% was a lot easier than saving 20 or 25% because I wasn't making a lot and I had a lot of bad debt that I didn't know about until the divorce. So I kind of started with a lower down payment and grew them since then. And one of the contributing factors to getting more than $1,000 a unit in cash flow is because I don't recycle capital. I recycle cash flow. SM, do you charge an application fee when posting a rental? No, but the tenants pay one, right? So the owner, I'm not going to benefit from an application fee. I think that's almost unethical to charge 30 people an application fee and then pick one and make money off of all the others and then tell them they don't make it, right? So first, I'm really clear in my things, what my criteria is. This is the credit score I want. This is no evictions ever. This is the amount of the down payment. This is the amount of the security deposit. Here's how I treat pets, pet fees. So all transparent. For a long time, I was using cozy.co, which was purchased by apartments.com. So then for a couple of rentals, when I acquired them or had a tenant turnover, I used apartments.com. Free for the owner, $45 fee for the applicant. So they're paying apartments.com. I get the credit score, credit history, criminal history, eviction history, work information, not verified. Recently, about a year ago, I started using Hemlane. Hemlane is a 3-tiered property management system that I'm really happy with. When I put my information in there, it puts it out on 30 platforms with me only hitting submit once, and it goes out onto Zillow, Realtor, Redfin, Trulia, like all of the different formats for rentals. If the tenant finds it on Zillow, they don't know it's Hemlane. It says Zillow, and they'll pay the $38 fee. If they find it on apartments.com, they'll pay the $45 fee. Those fees go to the platforms that collect the data for me. I don't make that fee. I do pay $28 a month for Hemlane plus $2 per unit. But the reason I like Hemlane is the 3-tiered thing. While I'm here in the US, I'm on the cheapest version and only on the properties that I've had tenant turnover on or buy a property and add a tenant. So when the tenant goes downstairs, they're going to be on the Hemlane platform. But I'm going to travel a lot. Beginning of 2023, I was in Portugal for a couple of months. Beginning of 2022, I was in Florida for a couple of months. My plan for 2024 is to spend more time in Thailand and maybe Panama, I'm not sure, than I do in the US, right? So when I'm traveling, I step up to the 3rd tier. For the months I might need to show a property, have a lease signed, they'll send out a leasing agent to, that's like the top tier thing for that month, and then step back down to the cheap version the next month. And so if you're interested in Hemlane, you can actually get 20% off your first year by giving them the code Dion Talk. And I have Dana, the CEO of Hemlane, on every once I just reached out to her today to do videos maybe next week to get some of the topics covered because she has a lot of information. She's got over 4,000 owners on her platform now and over 25,000 rental units. So she's got a lot of trending data. What's happening with rents? Why do landlords quit? Like all of these questions I can ask her. She'll know more about that stuff than I do because of her exposure to that many people. There you go. Jared, yes, I'm a private money lender via title and law firm on real estate. So, Jared, type your email in the chat and then put a space before the .com so that it doesn't block it because it's a link so that people can get your contact info. Mark, REA Stoners, my dad has been really supportive in our journey and wanted to help us out. So he bought us a refrigerator to place the existing mini fridge. That's awesome. Nice. My dad, I still miss you, Dad. My brother acquired a triplex, right? 3 houses, separate, 3 full houses on a property. One of them looked nice, looked really good. The other 2 really needed a lot of work. And my brother was super proud, just bought his first rentals. My dad shows up to look at him and he was making a derogatory statement by saying how bad a shape they were in. My dad goes, man, people will rent anything. Trying to be rude, because that's how our family shows love and support. But my brother took that statement and said, man, you're right. People will rent anything. This is awesome. Then he fixed them up and he still owns those properties. It's 3 of his 10 paid off Rentals. FYI, I tried to super chat the department message. It wouldn't allow me to. That's okay. Your money's no good here. Is there a super chat limit? $100 is the biggest one I've seen. But when you go to do like $1.99, it limits the chat to really small. So what some people have done is super chat $1.99 and then put the big comment as the next statement. Angel R. Trees next to properties are a big no. Yeah, they're a pain. I've taken out a couple, and then I just had one taken out. I think I shared at the beginning of this video. I think they're still here. I got a message from a tenant that the ground froze. This started leaning. All the roots popped up out of the ground. I got 3 different quotes. And the next day, that is what it looks like now. Looks a lot safer. Still deciding, not sure. I might stump grind that out. I don't know. Maybe not. So I'm probably going to be wrapping up there. And here's my couple of questions. Oh, Rich, the lovely mushroom farm moved to a town not too far from us. Wouldn't know it from the smell of all the dairy farms when you pass through that. There you go. So I moved to a farming thing. I think the mushroom farm never should have had to move. They were there before the city of Lacey was, right? It sucks that they lost, but legal insider trading, if you know what's coming, you can make real estate changes to your portfolio that you will benefit from legally. So here's the couple of questions I have. One, I like doing the members only. I like jumping on Zoom with everybody. And it would kill this channel because it is kind of boring. We open an email and we look at a property. Like, that's going to kill anybody's attention span that jumps in that isn't looking for that. But I don't like having the memberships. I don't think I've said that in a video yet. I did the memberships because YouTube, to grow your channel, right? For YouTube to push your content out, it's a business, right? Right. I think everybody that watches as much YouTube as I do should have YouTube Premium. So I've never seen a commercial on YouTube. Did you know you pay like 13 or 14 bucks a month and you never see a commercial. And I watch more YouTube than anything else, more than HBO, Netflix. I'm trying to think, what else do you watch? Even the prawn. There is more YouTube than prawn. So yeah, I would do YouTube for that. But YouTube makes money off of commercials, right? So most videos on YouTube, if you start a YouTube channel, you want it to be at least 8 minutes long. If it's 8 minutes or longer, they can put ads in the middle. If it's 8 minutes or shorter than 8 minutes, they can't do mid-roll ads. It can only be beginning and end. So you eliminate a third of YouTube's ad revenue for themselves if you do shorter videos, right? So I'm trying to think of how does YouTube want to grow the channel, because I want to get this information to more people. And I heard somebody say, if you have memberships, yes, you make some money from memberships, and it's like $2.99 or $4.99 a month from the person, and that 30 or 40 people, it can be a little bit in a month, right? Great. To grow the channel, because YouTube is making some of that money. I don't like collecting money from people on a monthly basis to do this. Doesn't feel good. So I was thinking, if I canceled the memberships, I could just kind of took them off the channel. And I would, of course, do members only meetings until the last cycle of the last month went through. Maybe the solution is that suggestion of start another channel, or that's what we do. We just look at deals. Super small channel, probably never grow over a couple of hundred people. And you don't need a membership to join. You can go. And then when you do go, we do a live like this, but I share the Zoom link in the chat. Kind of like, can I do that now? I only have a few minutes left. But if I do copy invite link and I put it here in the chat, how many of you can jump in here with me before I close in the next couple of minutes? This is what the course Zoom is like. We're all in Zoom together. So join me. We have cookies here on the dark side. Or does nobody want to join me and I? Oh, there's a delay. That's right. Okay. Fair enough. Scared me there for a second. I'm likable. And that is going to need to be refilled. Here we go. People are jumping in. Jump in here. Show your face. Say hello on YouTube. We only have a few minutes before the course Zoom starts, but
That's right.
this is people in YouTube land. I think maybe if I did a channel, a separate YouTube channel where we did this, it just opened Zoom, and I think it has a limit of 100. So the first 100 people that could jump in every time during a live. But on my lives, we usually get 60, 70 people. So even on a smaller channel, I think that might be the way to go. So this is kind of a vote. You raise your hands. So here in Zoom, everybody who's here. Should I cancel the memberships and start another channel where everybody can jump in for free and join the members only? Okay. Seems like that seems to be the vote. Okay.
Will it kill your YouTube channel?
So I don't have it yet. I'm gonna have to make another YouTube channel. I'll probably, maybe I could duplicate this one somehow, and it will be let's do Zoom calls, looking at deals. I'll pick a day of the like, I don't know, Sundays or Saturdays or something. I'll pick a day when most people can make it, and that might move around a little, where we can all just jump in and look at deals, and it'll be super boring. And my goal won't be to grow that channel. This is the channel I want to grow to give information out to everybody, but that channel is just for everybody. We can jump in, and then I don't have to feel bad for having memberships.
Are you
Call
going
it
to
something
post?
like Dion's deals.
The deal deep delves.
Deal deep delves. Yeah.
Call it
there we
triple
go.
D's.
There you go. Exactly. And
Will you
and the
will you post the videos from the Zoom onto your channel?
yeah, so this channel will just be here like this. I'll start another channel. I'll have to figure out how to do that. Maybe I'll have Frank show me since he just did it. But the other channel, what I'll do is on this channel, I will say, look, hey, tomorrow, this time, this is where here's the link. And when we and this is how it works for the members only. So I start the live stream. So I'm on YouTube talking. I post the link. It's like the first comment that I do. Everybody jumps in and then we do it. And then, so we'll be on there talking in Zoom. That video stays on that YouTube channel. So if you can make it live and you could jump in, and you can actually jump in and keep your camera hidden if you don't want to be seen or whatever. And I'll make it to where only members can, no, there's no members. Only subscribers can join.
Hmm.
And then I'll make a couple moderators. So people like Frank or, Chester can block. We're going to get bots. We're going to get the people that jump in and start, making stupid jokes or whatever. It's what happens with everybody. But yeah, I think that's a better way to do that.
I guess Dave can't make it then, huh? If dumb jokes are getting blocked.
Exactly. All right. So, and then what will happen is, so right now on YouTube, thank you for hanging out with me on YouTube. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk. YouTube ends. We're hanging out